Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film The Hatchet Man from 1932. This is continuing my quest to review as much of William Wellman's filmography as I possibly can within this year. Wong Lo, played by Edward G. Robinson, yes, that Edward G. Robinson, who is a hatchet man for his tong. A tong is kind of like a government. There are various tong governments in Chinatowns in the 1920s and the 1910s. The Hatchet Man was a guy who would go around and enforce the Tong's laws with a hatchet by killing someone. And he, in the beginning of the film, is instructed to kill his best friend, Sun Yat Ming. And even though they're blood brothers, so like, you have to do it, you're the Hatchet Man, he killed someone in our Tong. So he went and he goes and he kills his friend, but before he does, his friend tells him in his will he has left him his daughter and all of his wealth, and that he is to raise the daughter as his own and then marry her, basically, which is like super creepy. But then 14 years later, he marries her, and at the same time there has been peace and all this time, and he is thrust back into a Hatchet Man type situation where he is being asked to be a Hatchet Man once again. At the same time, he's marrying his friend's daughter, played by Loretta Young, while she is kind of being courted by one of his bodyguards, played by Leslie Fenton. The bodyguards are there to protect them from the various problems of the Tongs that are going on, and it kind of spirals from there. One of the things I really like about William Wellman, and it's something I've noticed more and more as I've watched more of Wellman's films, is that authenticity is important to him. And the Hatchet Man has like no authenticity, because all these actors who are playing characters of Chinese descent are English or American and are wearing Chinese makeup. And it's kind of hard to look at sometimes, and especially in the case of Loretta Young and Leslie Fenton. And I guess the one plus side to it is that they're not speaking in bad accents or anything. They use their normal speaking voices. So Leslie Fenton still sounds like Leslie Fenton, Edward G. Robinson still sounds like Edward G. Robinson. They don't try to put on accents, which would have probably made this film kind of unbearable, and I'm glad they didn't. And they felt that they needed real stars, and these were real stars at the time. You might wonder, well, why didn't you just make something that these stars could actually be in and portray effectively? But I guess that was like too complex. Since they are speaking in their normal speaking voices, it's almost kind of trying to contradict the makeup choices. And Edward G. Robinson I liked in this, and it's like, if none of these characters were wearing kind of yellow face, I think this would be a lot better of a film, and I think I'd probably be a lot more okay with it. One of the things that's weird about the Hatchet Man and how they portrayed all the Asian characters is that William Wellman made a film with Chinatown gangsters before called Chinatown Nights. I think that Chinatown Nights was a lot more authentic because Wallace Beery is playing a Caucasian character, and he's not a Caucasian actor playing a Chinese character. It's funny that Chinatown Nights, even though that's probably inauthentic to have a guy like Wallace Beery running a Tong, Hatchet Man was probably more of how it actually was. Chinatown Nights feels a lot more authentic because you don't have anyone wearing like yellow face in that movie. Although I guess he did. The villain in Chinatown Nights was wearing yellow face in that film as well, but it feels a lot more authentic because the major characters aren't. But then he made this film, you know, I guess that's probably how he got the job for the Hatchet Man, was because of Chinatown Nights. I prefer Chinatown Nights over this film. This isn't a particularly great film. I mean, not just because it's shot way too much on a set. Wellman still finds ways to give it kind of a special touch to it, with a lot of the controversial elements, like people being killed with hatchets. And even when Loretta Young is kissed by Leslie Fenton, is like off screen. When he kisses her, they move behind something. You know, even though this is pre-code, a lot of it's suggested, which was interesting. You know, there's only one really cool death by a hatchet, which is kind of disappointing, to be honest, because this is a movie called Hatchet Man with Edward G. Robinson, so I imagine there'd be like a lot of hatchet deaths in this, and they'd be really cool. But unfortunately, there aren't. Which, you know, you might think I'm shallow slow, but it is called Hatchet Man, and it's about a guy who kills people with a hatchet. I don't really know exactly what it's trying to do artistically. I just think it came out kind of melodramatic and a little dull because it's like far too slow. There are enough like cool little Wellman tricks in it to keep me going, but I was getting kind of bored of it. There wasn't really that much of an engaging plot, and they're not really saying anything with the plot. This isn't like what I like about Wellman. This isn't to me like what makes Wellman Wellman. Both the yellow face and the bad plot, and it's not really that intriguing. And you know, a lot of these films have melodrama, but the melodrama in this, just sometimes it was convincing, but then when you get to the third act and his wife runs off with this younger guy, it suddenly becomes this jerk, and he like sells opium, and like none of that was established for the audience. The plot doesn't really get us there. It just assumes they're like, yeah, you know, this kind of makes sense, right? It relies too much on us filling in the gaps, and like gaps that are far too wide that they're basically just plot holes. One of the main things that got me excited about this film is it's an Edward G. Robinson film directed by William Wellman called The Hatchet Man. I thought this would be a lot more fun and have a lot better energy to it, but it kind of like drolls on and on. I liked seeing Loretta Young, and I love Leslie Fenton, and I liked him a lot as Nails Nathan in The Public Enemy, but he's not as good in The Hatchet Man. When you look at older films, there's a lot of racist things now that then probably didn't seem as racist, or at least the people making it didn't see it as racist as it was. Some people said this was probably considered a little more progressive in its time, since they didn't have the actors put on accents or anything like in a Mr. Moto or a Charlie Chan or something. And I guess that it is a little more progressive, but it was a little too much. And the fact that the film is kind of boring and dull. It has a few cool scenes, and definitely Edward G. Robinson tried his hardest, I think, to get this film to work, and it seemed like Wellman was at least trying, but I think they both probably knew this was kind of a stinker. So if you have seen The Hatchet Man and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to. And my next William Wellman review will be not this coming Sunday, but the Sunday after that. I have a lot of videos coming out, and it just won't really work to get this out on a weekday. It will be not this coming Sunday, but the Sunday after that, and it will be The Purchase Price. I am kind of going in order, but kind of not. I'm basically going in order. I think that might break up a little just because of availability and when I can get certain things and when I can shoot certain things and things like that. But I'm going to try to do as close to in order as I possibly can. And the next one will be The Purchase Price. It'll be not this Sunday, but next Sunday, and I hope to see you then.